Welcome to the Life Transform podcast. I'm Simcha.
And I'm Sarah, and we are here chatting, sharing real life, real stories,
Deep truths, all about living a life transformed.
It's all about how God impacts our life and how we're changed and how our life becomes a significant impact in the lives of other people.
We're going to be here every week for this first season.
So make sure that you subscribe and join the journey. Hey, we are here. It is episode 10.
Yes.
Final episode for season
Made
1.
it.
Shocking.
Amazing. Well done for sticking with us.
Yes, absolutely. If you're listening to this, it's because you've enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed the journey. We're just sitting here this morning getting ready for this episode talking about editing our homes. Apparently this is a thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it's got to be done. I'm a big believer in regular purging in the house. I can't deal with... I've seen the effects of like years and years and years of build up. And
accumulation.
It's just never a good thing. I have a system in my closet where I hang all of my hangers the wrong way around. And as I use my clothes, I put them back the right way.
Oh, yeah.
And
you
so
told me about this.
At the end of the year, anything that hasn't been turned around goes. I haven't used it. I haven't worn it. I haven't missed it. It goes.
There you go. First tip of the day.
Yeah. Oh, there's many tips.
I like my house to be tidy and I like order, but I don't like doing it. I'm one of those people who wants the order, but it's like it literally, I could sweat thinking of just having to, because it's such a mess to take everything out and then redo. I hate it.
See, the point of organizing should be that doesn't happen again. So when you edit everything out, you put it back and you only put back what you actually want to keep, and you put it back in a way that is sustainable. Like you can keep it that way. So then you don't have to get to that place again.
So there you go. Simcha is super organized individual.
It makes me really happy to know the insides of my cupboards look good.
Whatever does it for you, darling. And then I am fairly organized, I think. I don't know. But I don't like doing the work of it. And I think it's easier for me to just not allow things in. Like I just won't shop. I won't get more stuff so that I don't have to deal with that.
You have to make space for the new stuff.
Make room for the new stuff. Yeah. So I think that ends up kind of, for example, clothes. I have like a set of clothes that I really, really love. And that's what I wear. And it's not as much changing. But I have gotten there with shoes. Like I have no more space for shoes. So now if I'm going to buy shoes, something has to go.
Yeah. I just exited probably about 4 bin bags full of clothes and shoes that I just was like, I don't need to hold this forever. I'm not wearing them. It's been months or years since I've touched them. So out. But the thing is, I like the process of ordering it because it's really rewarding at the end.
Why?
Because it's done and it looks good and everything's organized and it's neat and tidy, and you know that you've been like, what's the word? It's like a sustainable way of living. Like you're being more faithful with what you've got. You're not like...
It's like a pure heart of home organization.
Yes, there you go. There you go. I can ascend the hill of the Lord now because my child's underwear drawer is ordered.
I think the key to it is actually less stuff.
Yes.
And I think that not being married to stuff.
Yeah. And
examining that area of our life. We've talked about different areas of our life in terms of, health and just so many different things, in this podcast, but actually our relationship to things and stuff and how much of it we have, and how tied we are. There are a few items that you really, really love, keep those. And then, all this other stuff, get rid of it, because actually a decluttered life, a life that it's just more clear. It's just easier to think. It's also easier to rest. Yeah. Easier to relax.
I think that's the key. I think that's exactly it. For me, that when you ask me why I like knowing the insides of my cupboards are clear, there's no work to do. It's done. I can actually chill, switch off. I don't have anywhere of chaos in my house at the moment. it will change, I'm sure. But also it's about prioritizing, and that changes through life. Like I know when I was newly married, maybe even just with one kid, the priorities of what I had in my house were very different to what they are now. And I think what I've seen in my parents' generation especially is that they find it hard because of the generation they are and what they went through, and being baby boomers, they were raised with a lot more of a kind of poverty mindset, and so there's this kind of, but I must keep it just in
hoarding
case
mentality.
Yeah, it's a little bit, not even all the way through to hoarding, but like it's on the way to it. Like, but what if one day I need it, or I don't want to throw it away just in case? And we don't suffer from that.
No.
So I think being raised by that generation, our generation has reacted a little bit to it, and now it's a lot more minimalist, and if I don't use it every day, it shouldn't be in my house.
Well, it also depends who you're married to, though. Because the truth of the matter is, if you are a chucker, you're either a chucker or a keeper, right?
I converted mine.
Pray tell, because I'm still married to a keeper. So if I want to get rid of things, I have to do it when he's not around.
I think he was raised by people who are more towards the hoarders, and I am not. I react very strongly to that. It stresses me out so much. But I think he's seen the space, and he really enjoys the openness of when the house is ordered, and he knows where everything goes, and it's clear and it's not cluttered. He likes labels. He came up to me the other day and said, I was cooking, and the spice drawer, I relabeled my spice drawer, and he was like, it was like the best cooking session I've had in ages, because I could just read all the labels.
Nice.
So he appreciates the effect of the culling, and
I would also really appreciate the effect of you coming over and labeling all of my spices and culling my house. I would love to just have it being done for me. I would love to do that. Do it.
I would love to do that. The problem is when people invite you to do that, all of a sudden they care.
And they have to keep it all.
They care. They get very, very precious about every item. Oh, no, don't touch that. It goes there. You have to leave it. Don't move it. And then you're like, well, what to do?
Which actually is an awesome segue to today, because we're talking about leadership and discipleship.
Right.
And how how you lead and disciple people. So I don't know that we'll talk about home organization as part of this, but I'm sure if you're listening to this, you can relate, because you're on one side of this scale. And I think that in general, it is a good thing. I think also for me, it's about priority, because the busyness of life goes, and and it takes time. It takes time to do this. You need to kind of take a break and do it. And so what happens to me is I get into a mood, I get into this kind of season, and then it's time. Yeah. And you can just power through. But if you said to me generally, okay, let's do this now, everything within me would be like, oh no.
Yeah, definitely. I just had a week off, so I just did my entire house in a week, and every room, every cupboard, I just pulled everything out and only put back what we really wanted to keep. And it's like therapy for me. It's like free therapy.
So
how does that connect? How does that connect to discipleship?
Well, it is connected, because it's about taking, as someone who helps and facilitates people and people's journey, which is really has been our goal, and throughout this podcast season is really about that life transformed. And transformation needs to occur in different areas of people's lives, in so many different things. My life looks different to your life, that looks different to all the people around us, because we have, different areas that need to be quote unquote edited. And it's about that place where we say that God is more important than everything else, that allows us to change and have that transformed life. But it's not just about us, it's about other people. And like we were talking about in the previous episode, it's about the impact that starts to come out of our life. But I think that it's also important to talk about kind of leadership, because we are called to lead people to Jesus, to Yeshua, and what that looks like. And as we were thinking about this concept, leadership is really discipleship. Effective leadership is really discipleship. Because if people are being led by people who don't care, who don't who they don't know that they have their best interest at heart. You know, transformation or effecting transformation in other people is going to be so difficult if they don't know that where you're coming from is absolutely a place that you are so for them.
Yeah. I think that is really the key. Is you're not ever going to earn the right in somebody's life to disciple them if they don't know that about you. And I know that's something we've worked really hard on to maintain inside of the TenDay program and everything that we do. But it's that presenting to the people that this is our vision for you. Like, our vision and heart and passion is to see their lives transformed. And the reason that we have that vision and passion is because we've seen it in our own lives and we know it's worth it. And we want to see that in other people's lives. But the key is earning that right. Like, people have to be vulnerable. They have to trust. They have to submit themselves to somebody to be discipled by them. And that is a place that is earned. It's not a place that is ever forced.
I think that, you know, for us, Simcha was referring to the 10-day. So we're talking about Ascend, 10-day program in Israel. You leave everything else behind, life, worries, cares, and you come on this journey and this adventure with us. We're going on that journey together with you. And it's really built of a 3-part,
Yeah.
you know, 3 steps to this journey. And the first one is really about each one of us learning what the voice of God sounds like, or reconnecting back and affirming God's voice in our life. And you know, just looking at different people in the Bible and how that works and what that dynamic is about and how we come into the real manifest presence of God. And then the second part of it is what happens, you know, when we see God and then, you know, when he sees us, and we cannot stay the same from that encounter. Right. And so things start to change in us. And the key that we talk about is just this idea of a pure heart and this idea of a life that's consecrated. And really all that is just dying to self and putting God in charge. Yeah. Right. And that looks differently for so many different people. And I think that the reason that that's important is so that we can go forward with God and be effective with him, and to be that platform that God can operate through in our lives to others is really the most fulfilling thing that you can do. You know, it's not about me. It's not about my satisfaction in my life, but actually when I'm partnering with God in my life, when I'm subjecting every area of my life to him and doing the edits and, you know, making the changes and being transformed by him, then these amazing opportunities come forth. You know, it's not even about interacting with people. It's just sitting outside in the morning and praying and knowing that God is there. You know, that's the most satisfying, most fulfilling thing that we can pursue in our life. Yep. And from that bleeds out, you know, to other people.
It's like knowing the inside of your cupboard is clear.
I haven't gotten there.
No, but one of the biggest questions that we often receive is about why it's necessary to come and do this program in Israel. And I think aside from the fact that, you know, let's travel, one of the things that we've worked really hard to do on the 10-day program is to make sure that we incorporate places and sites across Israel that are connected to the journey that we're going on. So we don't ever just take time off of the journey to go see tourist sites. We've made sure that every place we visit is relevant, connected, and even highlights the journey that we're going on spiritually with God. And it's amazing actually, because if you think about the journey that you just described, actually the Ascend 10-day program is essentially a 10-day summation of everything that Jesus did in his ministry. It's the journey he took people on. They came in front of him into his actual physical presence, and it caused a reaction. And then they went out, and often against his word, because he told them not to, they went and shouted about it to everyone around them. So in a sense, the 10-day program kind of mirrors that process that he took people on in his everyday life just by being around them. And we do it on a bigger scale because we go beyond where he was living and where he was actually walking, although we do go there. But it's an amazing thing to watch people have those moments of encounter, both physically in these incredible spots. And we take people to all these places that are off the beaten track because this program is led by locals. We have all this inside info. And we're not relying on an exterior tour agency. We're doing everything from within the country. So it's a very different kind of touring than what you would get on a regular holiday tour.
And I think also that because there's a strong desire for people to really, have an experience with God, not necessarily in the feeling emotional, although that's also true. But because we're so committed to people, that, over time, our team has developed over time the leadership of, people who are leading tracks, which we can talk about in a bit. And what we're committed to as a team has really produced kind of, I would say, a culture or a DNA.
Yeah, for sure.
That facilitates that. And I think that what distinguishes it is that it is a discipleship leadership as opposed to just we're your leaders, come with me,
Yeah.
And I think that this has been something that has really meant the delta factor, if you like, of it. I know that I love that we start out in a very real place. We share fully, and that gives people freedom to share. But also, I know that for you, this has been something that you've brought, one of your strengths that you've brought to the team in terms of just seeing people and making sure that people are heard and always going back to that place of the individual.
Yeah, that's my thing. I love that we sit down as a team at the end of every day and go through the list of every participant and make sure that everyone is being checked in with and spoken to and sat with and spent time with or prayed with or whatever throughout the 10-day period. And it's actually really a unique thing because you are thrown into this it's a culture that we've created, but you're thrown into this place where these people are very intensively in your life for 10 days and they feel like your entire world. And you are, you're sleeping in the same place and you're getting up early and seeing people with their bed hair and before coffee and, you see real people for 10 days. There's no pretenses. You can fake it maybe to day 2 and then it's over.
Jet lag takes over.
And it's, it's intense and we go and we jump in deep from day 1 and it's amazing to see people shedding the kind of layers of the mask of whatever people arrive with this kind of, this is who I am. And then by day 3, they're on their faces, crying their eyes out. They don't even care. And that's amazing for me to see because I am so passionate about seeing individual people met where they're at by God and us facilitating that. And you can't facilitate that if you don't see them. So that's kind of my thing. But I love that the culture of the team brings so many different dynamics. And, the biggest push I think that we have on the program is worship. And, that's your thing and your strength and calling. And that's the element that you bring to the worship. I love the fact that we basically every day there's worship every day. It's like, it's not even negotiable. It has to happen.
Yeah. I think that what we've seen in building a team and in building a team that works well together is, each person brings different strengths. And when you identify a strength in someone, it's like their talent, it spills over, right? If you make a space and a place for it, it just spills over into what you're doing. But it also makes a joyful place, because different people are bringing what they have and their strength. And, sometimes you might have plan A, B, and C, but it's this idea of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
If you want to see people's lives transformed, if you want to be let's say you're a home group leader, or even just you're discipling one-on-one somebody, or, you know, whatever God is calling you to in a workplace. You're the boss, or you're a team member. Being a good team member is also, you know, an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
You can operate from a place of getting the mission done, getting the program done.
Yeah.
Or you can operate from this entirely different way of basically, this is how I kind of think about it. I want to see people the way God sees them. I want to see God, you know, and that's not always easy, because I'm very much on track, on target, mission-based, you know, person. And so I'm very much focused on trying to see how we can get the mission done. And so that's super important, because if you just end up in a place where there's no forward movement, well, maybe, you know, you're not going to accomplish as much. But actually bringing in and looking at each one on your team as a team member, saying, okay, how can I facilitate that person bringing their gifts forth, you know? And when you have that place, that's a very strong foundation for discipleship of others, for the transformation in the life of others. Because if we're not operating in that place where we're looking at everything through God's perspective, how, you know, within our own, let's say, family, and the close people around you. I remember listening to this quote, or a speaker that was saying, you know, if you want to know if your life if you've really changed, you know, ask the people you live with, you know, ask your family.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think you know, on Ascend, the vision is very definitely about taking people on a journey. But I think that the way that people want to go on that journey with you is connecting to the story, somehow connecting people. I think one of the things that I love to see on Ascend, but has definitely been my experience on the team, is the value of a person's story. And when people understand that their story is valuable, it creates hooks for other people to connect to them, and it encourages them, because we're all on different journeys, different stories, different paths, but we do cross at different points. And sometimes we cross and we cross paths with someone who's ahead of us, or we are ahead of them. And when you connect stories together, I think that's the power of story. That's actually how why the Bible is so important. It's God's story, and we connect to it. And I think when you are in an environment where everybody's story is valued, and you are sharing vulnerably stories, people connect to each other in a way that is very special. And that's definitely how our team has built, the foundation of the team is that each person's story, their testimony, the journey that God's taken them on is valuable, and it is a place where others can connect to that story. It may be that we learn from them, it may be that they learn from us, and it may be vice versa in different areas, and we learn from each other. But I think for me, that is the thing that I really love to see, is you have someone standing at the front, and every person that comes to share as from a leadership, from the front, you know, to speak or teach or lead in some way, we ask them to share their story and to talk and to teach from a personal point of view. And that creates the connection points for the people in the room. They'll relate to something in that story somewhere, and that automatically opens up the door for them to be more vulnerable with God, for them to be more open to us as a team, and to others around them as well. I think that's something that I really love to see.
It's so good. I think also it makes a comfortable, safe place. And, you know, when you have that, and when you don't have these facades and guards up in life, you know, which we build for good reason through other, you know, things that have happened to us. But, you know, when you can build trust, then, you know, a lot of fun happens as well, you know, because it's not fake. It's so many jokes, so many things, you know, you start to know each other. You start to, have these little funny things that
Texas
that
versus
happen.
Britain.
Yes, we have that. And so, that is a place of that personal connection. If you look at Yeshua, Jesus, the example of discipleship, he lived with them. He sat around with them. He ate with them. He was with them, except for when he was taking time out to pray and seek his Father. That was the model of leadership that he modeled for us. That was the model of his discipleship. It wasn't this, okay, I'll see you on Tuesday at 3 for our meeting, our discipleship meeting, right? It's jump in the boat with me. It's I'm struggling to pay my bills. Here's some fish, right?
Yeah.
It's very personal. It's very real. And it's an understanding that life is made up of all these parts, all these portions, and we cannot just take one view, one segment, and say, okay, I'm going to impact that, in someone's life.
Yeah. I
think that also time and patience. He's God. He could have zapped these guys, delivered, do you think he wasn't, when he was walking ahead and in the background, they're going, well, I'm more important. No, I'm more important. No, I'm the special guy. No, I'm the guy who lent on his chest. He wasn't aware that this was happening. Of course he knew that this was happening, but God is long suffering, right? and he developed them over a 3-year period to that point where they could see him suffering, crucified, resurrected. And these guys changed the world. They literally became world changers. And this is the same for us. We cannot, look at the short game. It's the long game with people. It's a process over time that seeds are sown. And then the watering season, and then some sunshine, and then maybe a storm, until you will see that fruit in someone's life that you're leading or discipling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly it. I think we live in such an instant gratification world, and that is the problem with these quick fix evangelism movements where you just get someone to pray the prayer and then that's it, your job is done. And that there is value in some of that. I'm not dissing all of that, but it's the ministries, it's the people, it's the vision that values after that, the process after that. Great if you get them to that place, wonderful, but actually where do they go after that? Who's connecting to them? Who is walking with them through life every day?
Exactly.
After that. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it means that for us as people who are walking this life transformed, it's being willing to lay your life down. No greater love has anyone than the one who lays his life down for his friend. It really is that. It's continually making that decision, that choice to lay your life down, your needs, your wants, your desires, your rights, everything, your plans, and being available for the people around you that God sends you to. And that could be, your neighborhood, that could be further away, but it's not looking at something whereby, you can necessarily see the fruit very quickly. It's being willing to invest. It's really pioneering, isn't it? When you are discipling somebody, when you're leading someone, there's an element of pioneering in it.
Yeah.
And as a pioneer, if you give up quickly, you're not going to take any ground. You're not going to see the transformation in someone's life if you are going to make a stab at it and then retreat.
So true.
You have to be willing to come from that place where this is a long-term investment and not seek to see the results. It doesn't mean that we don't want to see them, but God is the one who's responsible for those results. Our responsibility is to be that tool, that person that God can partner with in someone else's life. But it's also ultimately, when you share the gospel with someone and they look at it, they pick it up, they turn it around, you can say everything, but in the end of the day, it's their action, it's their decision. And it's the same with somebody who is making, their baby initial steps in faith, but also people who are further down the line. As people who are more mature in faith, we have adopted all kinds of Christianese and all kinds of ideas about God through maybe disappointment, whatever it is. God is silent. God doesn't hear me. God won't intervene on my behalf. God, won't change this. And we also can have these hard places.
Absolutely.
This journey, this whole podcast, everything we've been talking about is really about God being able to change every room in our heart, every place, every crevice. It's kind of like the home edit, really, right? It's the edit of our heart. And if we're not in it for the long haul with him, we're not going to be in it for the long haul with other people.
Yeah.
And real change, sustainable change happens, I believe. There are these big aha moments, but then you have to live it out.
Yeah.
And that living it out, the cycles, sometimes you kind of hit your head on an issue. You knock your head on it first time. You're like, dealt with it. Okay. Comes around again. Bang. Right? Yeah. What is that? That's working out our faith, working out that salvation. And it is a disservice to say to somebody, pray the prayer, you'll go to heaven, because you're missing the entire point, which is our life here with God.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was actually listening to what you were saying and just translating that into this 10-day period of life that we live during the program, and just thinking, you said, laying your life down, going the extra mile, not getting what you want, doing this. And I was thinking, man, that is really the commitment that we make as a team for that 10 days. And how often, we're the last ones to bed and the first ones up, and, there's hours praying with people and counseling people and all this stuff. And it is absolutely because of what you said. It's to take people that distance, so that when they go home it continues. And that, for me anyway, that is always a test. Great, you've had this wonderful time in Israel, you've had a great trip, you've met with God, you've made some friends, you've seen some stuff, you've had a whole 10 days of
amazing food,
absolutely, and you've had all these aha moments for 10 days. Like, imagine 10 years crammed into 10 days of moments where you go, oh my word. But what happens when you get off the plane at the other end? When you go back to work, when you're back with your kids, when you're back in your normal everyday life, where does it start working out? How does it actually impact your life? So when we hear those stories from people about
incredible
seeds that were sown during the 10 days, or even massive changes that came as a result of the 10 days, whether it's moving cities or states, or getting married or, to someone they've met on the program, less. But, when we hear those stories, to me, that's like the pat on the back from God, that sometimes it is painful. I'm going to say it for us as a team. Sometimes the 10-day program can be hard work. It is hard work for us because we are pouring out 24 hours of the day, but it is the pat on the back and the well done, and that it's worth it when we see those people coming back and saying, because of the 10-day program, or because of what I learned, this has happened in my life, and this has changed in my life, and this has transformed my life in that way. That is what, for me anyway, that's what I love to hear.
Yeah. And one of the great things I've found is that God's opened up the doors for us to do this locally as well. Yes. So, translating a lot of these things that have been established into doing local events for people here in the land, for worshipers. And I think one of the interesting things that I've seen in that, in terms of leadership and discipleship, has been that we are working with partners. So we're not working alone. So now it's about taking the dynamic that's in one team and working with an entirely different team with a different set of leadership under a different set of covering, right? Yeah. And how does that work? How do you become DNA. With a different DNA? How do you become effective as a larger group? It's kind of like, let's say you're in a home group in one area of the city. If you can partner with another group or church in another area, you're going to be stronger. It's like building this bridge that's going to make you stronger in God, because strength in numbers, you know,
Yeah.
you have more. But that partnership, okay, requires different things, you know, within yourself and within your team. And I think for us, you know, one of the things that God has opened doors for us to work with teams that they're not the same, but they're committed to the same things.
Mm-hmm.
They want the same things. And so when you can find that, I remember you telling me this once. You said, you know, birds of a feather flock together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find those kindred spirits, those people who have the same goals, but also some of the same ways, so much more can be accomplished for the kingdom. In that way. And you know, so what we do here in the country is really look at events that bring young people and different generations of people together, to equip them, to build them up, to encourage them, to create those relationships between people who are living in different parts of the country, that maybe people who feel isolated, who feel alone, who aren't being invested into, you know. And what we're able to do is to hold these kind of events that really just bring people together. And what we've seen from that is that there is boundless fruit that comes from that, because when you do that, you bring these people together. We've had amazing results of these connections that are being made, and more fruit for the kingdom of God, because people who were otherwise isolated or didn't know that there were people around them that felt the same and wanted to do the same things. And now they're off, you know, new initiatives are happening, new things are going on, just by, again, taking this DNA and taking this heart cry of making a place and a space for people to meet with God and each other and to be transformed.
Yeah, I think for us, the vision is, how can we bring and facilitate this transformation and this story that God's taken us on? How can we translate that to as many people as we can? And, you know, one of the biggest issues that we've had is, first of all, people can't always travel. Second of all, people can't always afford to come to Israel for this 10-day program. And while we have the local events, which is really only for Israelis, it's all run in Hebrew. It's really to build up the body in Israel, for local congregations and worshippers. But we don't want to stop there. Like we've always said, but what about the masses that cannot? First of all, there's a ton of countries that make it very difficult to enter Israel, but also cost-wise, it's not always feasible for people. We get so many people applying to come or wanting to come to Israel from places like India and African countries and South American countries as well. And their biggest issue is cost.
Finance.
So we really took that on board and have worked so hard. There are no words to describe how hard we have worked. But we have now got this incredible online program, which we're super excited about having live. And it's just really a way for us to deliver a taste. It's not the same as being in Israel. Nobody can ever promise. You cannot experience anything with like walking it yourself in real. We're not trying to pretend that that's what we're doing, but it is a taste. We have created a platform that has tours. We have a personal tour guide that is just for the online school, the online program. We take you to all these different places that are not on the 10-day program. They're all new places with incredible insights and prophetic significance and real good kind of, you really feel like you've been there. Yeah. As well as, you know, lots of teachings, all with the same DNA, with the same, everything we've been saying today, this DNA that we work so hard to carry through everything we do. It is totally there in the online program as well. And it's just a way for us, with lots of different financial options for people, for them to really be able to get on board and experience a bit of this, experience a journey, not just of the heart, but also through these places inside of Israel where there's so much biblical significance.
The other thing we do on Ascend is also we kind of focus in on track time, what we call tracks, which are really kind of areas of development or areas where we want to see people grow.
Yeah.
And so one of them is to do with prayer, prayer ministry and intercession, leadership, management, business, creativity, creative track. You're a writer, you're a poet, you're a singer, whatever it is that you kind of expressing that creativity, worship, leading worship teams, musicianship, we've taken that from the 10-day and applied that into iAscend, into the online program, because again, it all comes from that place of being committed to growth, of being committed to people's development, not necessarily in skill, but in that transformation that happens, that exchange that happens between us and God, and in those gifts and those talents that God has callings over people's lives. He has, desires for them. And sometimes, listening to other people who are in that boat, or who have, come up with other ideas or different ways of handling situations, or that's so inspiring because you're like, hey, I haven't thought of that. Hey, I'm going to try that. These kind of just more practical tips and ideas. And then when you walk out of something like that going, you're so inspired to move forward. You're like, okay, how can I apply that? How can I take that to my own life? And through us being inspired by God is how our life starts to become inspiring to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I'm most excited about the online program is that I can do all the tracks. Because when you come and you do the 10-day, you have to choose one. You have the workshops, you have the sessions, and you do it, but you have to stick with one the whole way through. Whereas on the online program, you can do all of them. So I'm really excited to try out the other ones. I'm also really excited about the whole element of coaching, and this is really the discipleship part of Ascend, is alongside of the online program, just providing those masterclasses and workshops and coaching in those areas that we want to see people developed. That is available only on the online. Yeah, the thing that I'm really excited about is this whole aspect of coaching and masterclasses and workshops that we're running on the online platform that we've got. Because not only do we get to hang out with people all over the world that are now connecting in on the online system, but we're also connecting them to each other. So maybe you might want to collaborate with someone. You don't know anyone nearby you, or you're feeling isolated, or you're feeling uninspired. This is a really great way for you to not only connect with the team here, but also to connect with a bunch of other people who have also gone through this online program and are wanting the same. They're in the same place as you. They've wanted to connect in this way, and they've chosen to come and hang out in this area.
I think that's one of the most incredible things, kind of as an ending note, that we get to see. Our team. We've discussed this through the podcast. We kind of do life with each other. Yeah. We live together. We have all kinds of fun times and funny moments. To me, like some of the jokes that occur, on our group, it just lifts my day. I don't know how to, it cracks me up, and it's just this great breath of fresh air. But being able to have that connection point and to find those people, your tribe, finding your tribe in the world. Sometimes it's not necessarily the person that's living right across the door.
Absolutely.
It would be great if it is, but just that extra encouragement, that layer, and people coming on the 10-day walk away with friendships for life, for people that they wouldn't ever imagine, and I mean, they're traveling around, they're seeing each other, they're spending time, they're connecting, even within country. Yeah. These are big, most except for Israel. A lot of countries are very, very big, and just finding people within country that you can meet up with and be, and then, translating that into an online platform and allowing that place and space for hangouts, for collaboration, like you said, for people to find those that are on the same journey, those that have the same goals, those that really just want to meet with God and want to live a life transformed.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think really it's about a tribe, finding your tribe. And we are so excited to extend an invitation to you as listeners of this podcast, or maybe you're already somehow involved with the Ascend family, but this is your tribe. This is a place where you can connect, where you can find your people, find your tribe, and hopefully we can help facilitate and join your journey in your own transformation story.
Amen. Well, I think we've come to the end of season 1. Well done to all of you. This has been a true joy. And
Absolutely.
I cannot wait for season 2. In the meantime, go out there, live your life transformed, and connect. Leave us a comment, send us an email.
Hop on the online program.
Review the podcast. Share it with your friends. Yeah, hop on the online.
The links are all in the show notes, and we are really excited to see you back here for season 2 coming soon. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss an episode. And if you have loved this show, please leave us a rating.
Yeah, we'd so appreciate it. And share it with your friends and your family. We are so excited that you have joined the journey.